Hey guys, welcome back. I ran into some technical difficulties last week, but we are back on track. I should be pumping one out every week here for a while till summer gets going, and then my other job kind of takes over my life from there. Anyhow, so for this week we have a really special guest that's going to come on. Pastor Ken Peters is coming out here to talk to us and explain to what he's doing with the church at Planned Parenthood. We discuss politics, where the church's role is in that, as well as what he defines abortion as is from a biblical perspective, and what is the church at Planned Parenthood. So, with no further ado, welcome you back. This is the Schumann Show. Well, bringing on Pastor Ken Peters here to the Schumann Show today to discuss the church at Planned Parenthood. We'll just let him explain it from here on out. So, Pastor Ken, thank you for coming on to the show. Just give us a little background of who you are for those of us who don't know.
Hey, thank you so much, brother, for having me on the program today. It's an honor, and the church at Planned Parenthood it freaks some people out because it sounds like the church of Planned Parenthood, but that one little preposition is a big deal. We are not the church of Planned Parenthood. We are very much against abortion and what goes on at Planned Parenthood. We're the church at Planned Parenthood, and my name is Pastor Ken, of course, Pastor Ken Peters. I'm known as, and I pastor Covenant Church in Spokane. I also oversee Covenant Church in Moses Lake, Washington. And we have two Christian schools, one in Spokane and one in Moses Lake as well. So both of our churches have Christian schools. And so I stay very, very busy in the local church. I live a local church life. And so the church at Planned Parenthood is like an outreach ministry of our church.
Okay. Yeah, it's so funny that you bring up the of and the at, because when I was telling my wife who I was having on, she's like, "Wait, there's a church of Planned Parenthood." And I was like, "No, it's at Planned Parenthood." So,
bro, I can't tell you how many times I've had to have that conversation.
So, what gave you the idea to start all this? Like, what gave you the passion? I mean, granted, most Christians are anti-abortion and everything like that. Most of them are pro-life here, but what gave you the passion to actually go out there and start to make a difference rather than just saying, "Yeah, I oppose it," and then sitting at home on your couch like most every other person does?
Right. Well, I've always been I guess what you could say, a very vocally bold preacher. I've never shied away from the cultural issues of our day. Usually every election, I have a couple of families that leave the church because I'm too political. Because I grew up that way. My dad was a pastor. I'm a pastor's kid, and my dad was that way. So I just kind of come by it naturally. My dad loved the United States. He was an immigrant from Canada, but still an immigrant. And he loved this nation, and my dad fought for it. And so that's kind of in my blood. And so I've always really been outspoken and bold. And I always voted Republican or whatever to get the Supreme Court to hopefully change the Roe v. Wade, law. And so I grew up kind of like that, and I've always been that way. But we had a special speaker come and visit our church from Operation Save America. And it's a pro-life kind of abortion abolitionist type of group. And the leader of its name is Rusty Thomas. Rusty Thomas's son, Jeremiah Thomas, was all over Facebook about a year and a half ago. He was dying of cancer. You might have seen him.
Sure.
His make-a-wish was to talk to the governor of Texas and ask him to abolish abortion in Texas. And so Rusty Thomas came to our church, and he started talking about how Christians need to do more than just vote. Besides our prayers, of course, we always want to pray. But right. Besides our prayer, that we need to do more than vote if we really believe that they were killing children in our town. And so he started going on kind of a rant, and he started going on this preacher deal. And he goes, "Man, if you have any prayer warriors that just love to pray, get them down to Planned Parenthood and just have them walk up and down and pray." He said, "If you have any worship leaders. Get them out there with a guitar or something and have them play guitar and sing some songs and some praise and worship and some hymns and just sing at Planned Parenthood and let the Lord meet you in that place. And then he goes, and if you have any preacher boys that want to learn how to preach, have them come out there and just have them preach at the wall, and it just be a presence out there. And when he got done with that rant, I thought to myself, you know what? That sounds a whole lot like church, right? We got worship, prayer, preaching. That's like church. And I planted like 3 churches before, and I thought, you know what? I felt like the Lord told me. I felt like the Lord said to me, just put in my heart, put in my spirit, and said, I want your next church campus to be the church at Planned Parenthood campus. So I like get that idea in the middle of this guy's sermon. And this is what you never want to do. I'm giving everybody a warning. Never make an announcement without talking to your wife first and maybe a couple of good friends that'll tell you the truth, right?
Yeah, I totally agree with that one.
So I get up there in front of the whole church and I say, ladies and gentlemen, our next church campus is going to be the church at Planned Parenthood campus. And my wife looked at me like her eyes got so big. The speaker, Rusty Thomas, his jaw like hits the ground. He had never heard of anything like that. And the congregation just kind of looked at me like deer in headlights. But the title of this guy's sermon, Rusty Thomas's sermon, was based on the verse, maybe not the title of the sermon, but the sermon was based on the text where Jesus said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Mm-hmm. And so that was like the theme of his sermon. And I thought, why not take the church to the gates of hell? Because if you don't confront the gates of hell, then the gates aren't pushed on. You gotta push on gates to push them over. So I thought, why not take what we're good at, Sunday morning church? America's good at church. You know what I'm talking about. We're good at church. In fact, we're almost too good at church. You got professional churches. You got these huge mega churches, and they do big dramas and productions, and it's almost like a big entertainment center in some of our churches. And why? Because we're good at church. So I thought, why not take what we're good at, church in America, and let's take it down to Planned Parenthood. That way we don't have to yell at anybody. We don't have to scream at anybody. Let's just have church, and that's it. So that's what we did. Now, after I said that, I kind of obligated myself, and it took me about 2 months to be brave enough to actually do it. But we finally did it. And so that's what the church at Planned Parenthood is, and that's where it came from.
That's so crazy. It just, really on a whim. Like, hey, this is what we're doing. I guess we're doing it now. And yeah, that's such a huge step. And I mean, look at what you've become now. I mean, recently you were had an article about you in the Blaze. Facebook shuts you down, everything like that. But when you were getting going, what was it like in Spokane? Like, did you have to get permits? And did the city try to shut you down? Did Planned Parenthood try to sue you? Or how did any of that stuff ever arise?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. I knew it was going to be a war, and at first we slid under the radar. Nobody really knew what we were doing because nobody knew about us. Our first service.
Nobody in their right mind would do this, right?
No, nobody. Listen, the idea is so crazy because the idea is so simple. Yeah. And yet it's so profound. Nobody has ever done this before and called it this and had an outdoor church at Planned Parenthood. I've never heard of that before, an outdoor church at Planned Parenthood. So it's a crazy idea. But anyway, so we were under the radar at first, and we had our first service was amazing. We had about 150, 175 people at our first service. It blew my mind. And in fact, it was kind of like that movie, It's a Wonderful Life, where people kept coming and coming at the end, and giving the guy money, on that movie, It's a Wonderful Life. People just kept coming and coming, and I couldn't believe it. In fact, my wife was blown away, so much so that she looked at me in the middle of that first service and she goes, and you're a husband, you'll know how this would feel. My wife said, I've never been more proud of you in my life than I am right now. And that was amazing. So that first service just kind of exploded, but we still stayed under the radar. Now we've gotten national attention. Like you said, we've been all over the news media. We've been on the 700 Club. We've been on, on CBN News. We've been on the Blaze multiple times. We've been on, I could go down the list of media outlets that we've been on, including the Schumann Show, which is fantastic. So we've been all over on. So now that we're known, Spokane knows about us now. Our city knows about us.
Mm-hmm.
And I just talked with the Spokesman Review yesterday, and one of their reporters called me, and there's a big feud now. Planned Parenthood is trying to buy the piece of property that we're having church on for our outdoor service. It's city property, and they're trying to buy it from the city so they can get us out of there.
Sure.
And so the local newspapers contacting me, asking me what we're doing about it, what we think about it. So we've become kind of a focal point in the city of Spokane. Every service, there's about 8 police cars with their lights flashing. I mean, how many churches get 8 police cars with lights flashing? That's amazing.
That's incredible.
Amazing. And all we're doing is singing. Can you believe it? All we're doing is singing, taking up an offering for women in crisis or some local ministry. We don't keep a cent of it. We have a sermon. That's all we're doing. And we have 8 police cars, lights flashing. We got a whole bunch of protesters on the other side of the street because the police keep them separate from us. So there's no entanglements. Sure. And they're sitting there yelling at us, and they're playing cowbells, and they got bullhorns, and they're screaming at us with God is love signs, and drag queen signs and LGBTQ signs. They got these big God is love signs while they're screaming hateful things at us. It's pretty ironic, but that's the left for you, right? God is love as long as you're one of them. But
yeah, if the left didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all.
Without a doubt. I like that line. I might have to tweet that quote. I'll give you the credit. Don't worry, I'll give you the credit. So it's just now Planned Parenthood is going after us. They don't like us. The newspaper doesn't like us. The police love us. They love us because they see a clear difference between good and evil.
That's something I did not expect, actually. I mean, that's cool to have the support of the law enforcement behind you because, I mean, they're the ones who are keeping you safe, essentially, and everything like that. But even in such a, Spokane's relatively left-leaning, and I would assume like the police presence would be much more like down in Florida, where you had that sheriff with the school shooting and stuff who was trying, that's kind of how I figured the police force. But the police force is really like receptive to your message and everything like that.
The police love us because they can tell that we are not a violent bunch. We're there to have church. It's almost like the police officers get to go to church on the job.
Yeah.
They literally just stand around and they're there to protect us. But we have church and they just stand and kind of watch the church service. So I think for some of them, it's like a donut break or something.
Right.
And it's like their church service. And they get it going. And it's like almost like a night off for them because all we do, like I said, all we do is have church. Now the protesters, the left tries to make us violent. They try to make us extremist, and they do everything they can. Can you imagine I couldn't imagine this 20 years ago. Drag queens are trying to make us extremists.
Right. And honestly, I think that was my first interaction with your organization was a few months ago. Somebody said that there was a riot in front of Planned Parenthood, and that they were, and then it came out that it was your organization. I was like, what is this? And I was like, really? A literal church outside of Planned Parenthood singing songs is a riot. the fact that they use such extremism language to blow completely out of proportion, just it negates their entire argument and what's going on. And I think the average US citizen can see that, be like, that's not what they're doing at all. And yeah, it does more detriment to their cause than what it does to yours.
I think so. They try so hard to make us extreme. But I mean, I pastored in this town for 21 years, and nobody ever called me extreme before.
Yep.
I'm a guy, I got a wife, I got 4 kids. We took our kids to soccer practices just like everyone else. We have our kids in a private Christian school. We have a dog and we have a cat, and we're male and female, which is traditional.
Yeah.
You know? So, and then you got the LGBTQ and however other alphabet letters they have in their deal, trying to brand us as extremists. And it's I think the Lord made this perfect, because he found just a really average, ordinary family that is not extreme. So you can call my family and myself extreme all you want, but at the end of the day, if anybody knows us at all and talks with us even for 2 minutes, there's no way that they could think that we're extreme.
Right. I mean, you're not doing this because you hate the people at Planned Parenthood. You're doing it because you care for them and you love them, and you want to show them that there is another way, and there's another way to go about things rather than killing an innocent, in the womb. And so have you, I'm sure you've had interactions with people who have gone to the Parenthood. Like, what are some of the stories you hear from people that your organization has touched?
I've become kind of the 911 call in our city. When somebody hears about somebody that wants an abortion, or might be thinking of an abortion, or is get an abortion, already scheduled to get one, they call me. And so we've become kind of that group that will try to intercede and talk with that girl and let her know that there is help for her, and there's another way. And please don't kill your baby. You'll regret it someday. You'll always wonder what your baby looked like. You'll always wonder about it. It's gonna you can abort the unborn child, but you can't abort the memory of that child. The memory of that child will be forever. So we've kind of become that 911 call. And so sometimes in the middle of the day, I'm here at our Christian school, I'll get the 911 call, and they'll say, hey, so-and-so is on their way to Planned Parenthood right now, and they're on their way there now. And so I'll run out of my office, I'll grab a sign that says life is precious with a cute little baby on it or something, and I'll just stand there and watch for these people and beg and plead for them not to get their abortion. You don't yell at them. You're not mean.
Right.
We always want to walk in holiness. I mean,
Right.
you don't want to do something righteous in an unrighteous way. That negates the righteousness of it. So you want to do the right thing with the right spirit and the right fruit of the Holy Spirit. So yeah, we've had so much interaction, so much connection, like I've never had before in my 21 years of pastoring in Spokane.
That's beautiful, man. It goes my previous episode of whether the church should be political or not, and this right here is why. Is because I think the church is what should set the morality for the community. It's not laws. It's not the government. They don't have anything to do with morality. Obviously, the Clintons, Kennedys, on and on, right?
Yep.
It's the church that needs to set up the morality, and the church being able to have a political voice within their community, being able to get up out of the pews, move from their church. Well, I guess your church is there, but going out there and making a difference within the community, and having people take a second chance. Should I really be doing this? Is this something that I should be doing? And even though they may not fully understand the whole biblical or Christianity aspect of it, they get the morality, and it just hits them where it hurts. They may not accept it. I mean, there's a movement called Shout Your Abortion, where they're having to shout it because they feel so much, sadness or regret for it, that they're trying to shout above that because they can't withstand knowing that they killed something innocent that they created. And I just really appreciate what you're doing. That's awesome. And what are your thoughts about the church being political?
Oh man, I appreciate you hitting that subject. God bless you on the Schumann Show. But Jesus said that we're the light of the world. We're a city set on a hill. We're the light of the world. He said, don't put the light under a bushel. Don't put it under a basket. And if we keep our quote unquote religion, our faith to ourselves within our own church building, and we never speak out about righteousness, then in a way, we're putting our light under a basket, and our church buildings have become the actual bushel or basket that Jesus warned us about.
Right.
And he also said that if salt doesn't have its flavor, then it's good for nothing. So Jesus obviously wanted the church to be good for something, because he warned us about being good for nothing except to be thrown out and trampled on by men, he said in the Sermon on the Mount. So should Christians be involved in politics? Absolutely. In fact, because we haven't been involved in politics, the left has taken over the media. They've taken over, they're impeaching the president for, we don't even know why. They don't like him.
They don't even know why.
They don't even know why. They just hate him.
Yep.
And so we've lost prayer in school. We've lost the protection of the unborn. We've lost marriage. I mean, we're talking centuries and centuries of male and female only marriages. And then we lost that. Now anybody can get. Pretty soon you're going to have 4 or 5 people that can get married at one time. And I mean, because what's the moral code? There is no moral code. It's what, men are doing what is right in their own eyes. And so, to answer your question, yes, we must be involved in politics, and it's a spirit or a mentality of pietism that says, you know what, I'm just going to hunker down. I'm saved. Maybe I can get a couple other people saved. We're going to stay safe. But you know what? John the Baptist lost his head by confronting a politician.
Exactly right.
For his immorality. He looked at that king and he said, Herod, you are living in immorality. And he was not afraid of that politician. He was not afraid of that king, and it cost him his head. Well, I don't know if he said that to Herod. Maybe it was to his wife. I'm not sure the details, but you get what I'm saying. He confronted governmental leadership.
Right. And to mesh the two together, sort of, do you see any hope in overturning Roe versus Wade?
I do. I do see a little bit of hope there, and I think we should continue to try. But I think there's a better strategy now, and people are beginning to discover it. It's spreading all over. And there are bills and laws already right now, as we speak, in state legislatures that are choosing to ignore the decision of Roe v. Wade. You see, the Supreme Court doesn't make law.
Thank you. Oh, that drives me up a wall. Yeah. Right. Thank you. Anyhow, continue.
Thank you. I'm so glad you see it that way.
Oh, it drives me nuts.
It's nuts. We've got like a 9-headed monster, 9-headed king. This nation was never designed to be a 9-headed king, an oligarchy. We were designed to be a republic where they represent the people. These the legislative branch represents the people, and they make laws primarily on the state level. And so right now, you'll be excited about this if you don't already know it. Maybe you already know. In the state of Idaho, there is a bill right now in committee with 6 co-sponsors. And this bill, if we can get it out of committee, Idaho is a conservative state. If we can get it out of committee, It's co-sponsored by 6 politicians. It will ignore Roe and abolish abortion entirely in the state of Idaho. No exceptions from the moment of fertilization or conception until birth. And it's not only Idaho. There's one in Oklahoma. In fact, I'm going to be there. I think it is, let me see. Yes, February 11. I'm going to Oklahoma City, and many people, if you can come, man, come on out. If your listeners can come on that day, February 11, come out to Oklahoma City. We're going to the state capitol because there's a law in Oklahoma. And by the way, Oklahoma has a pro-life governor, a pro-life House, and a pro-life Senate. Mm-hmm. And there's a bill right now that says we're going to ignore the opinion of the Supreme Court, because all it is an opinion. It's not a law. It's an opinion on law. And they're going to say, no, God's law is higher. We were created equal, not born equal. We were created equal. Where were we created? In the womb. Yep. So we were created equal, and we all have the inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So we're going to ignore the decision of the Supreme Court, and the state of Oklahoma is not going to allow abortions in this state from the moment of conception till birth. Brother Schumann, that is happening right now as we speak. So I think there's a new strategy. Instead of us beating our heads against the wall and trying to get this 9-headed monster to change its mind, which is hard to do because they're so bound by what they call precedents.
Yeah.
So it's really hard for them to change their mind.
Which is completely ridiculous because precedents has to be set upon precedents which had to originate from the founding documents in itself. So therefore it should all be originated from the founding documents.
Exactly.
And out the window with precedents.
Exactly. But they all bow to precedents. To them, it matters more than God's law, more than nature's law, from nature's God. You know, all these statements within our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution, they ignore that. So I think, brother, that there's a better strategy, and it's spreading far and wide, and that is states are just going to start ignoring Roe v. Wade. Why not? There's already states ignoring the marijuana laws.
That's exactly right.
You got sanctuary cities defying the federal government with illegal immigration.
Yep.
So why not ignore Roe v. Wade? You know what? They need a pushback anyway. The Supreme Court needs a pushback. There are 3 equal branches.
Yep.
And the Supreme Court is not above the legislative branch. Not at all. So I think we got a better strategy going now. And I'm telling you, brother, it's in about 7 or 8 different states, I believe, right now. There are laws that would ignore Roe entirely and abolish abortion completely with no exceptions.
That is awesome. And just for my listeners to expound upon the Supreme Court, we got to keep in mind that the Supreme Court was originally founded with only 3 justices. Only 3. It wasn't until Roosevelt came on the field that it was upgraded to 9, that he added some people because he couldn't push what he wanted. The left has always used the Supreme Court to weaponize laws and bills or however they feel to push their agenda in this entire phrase. So I just want to keep that out there. In fact, the founding fathers thought that the supreme government was so unimportant that they didn't even have a room for them within the Capitol for years and years and years. They would have to borrow the room from the Senate whenever they had a court case. And they were appalled, I think, the first time that they had to meet 4 times that year. So just to downplay on how unimportant the Supreme Court was meant to be to what we've propped it up to be today is completely ridiculous. Pastor Ken, I just wanted to say, are you like planning on planting more churches? Or are you planning on spreading this whole church at Planned Parenthood around the United States or up into Canada or anything like that? Because it seems like, I mean, you got traction, man. It's incredible how far-reaching you have been and continue to be.
Yeah, you know, it's taken on a life of its own. I'm doing this on the side, and yet it just keeps growing and more people are getting involved. But no, my desire is that TCAPP. I have the hat on here. I'm repping here. Which stands for the Church at Planned Parenthood. My prayer is that TCAPP would go nationwide, and it would become a symbol that means church active, church not sitting on their pew playing a club game like a
Right.
social club, but church getting out there and being salt and light. We've got a number of different Church at Planned Parenthoods that have sprung up. There's one in the Seattle area. There's I'm talking with somebody on the other side of Washington, which is much more liberal than my side of the state.
Wow.
We're still barely conservative over here, which is weird, because when you think of Washington, you think of liberal everywhere, but we're close to Idaho and Montana.
Okay.
So we tend to have more of their culture, thank God. But unfortunately, Seattle is starting to cross the mountains and come over to Spokane, because our housing's way better, our life is way better. Why? Because we've been conservative, and they haven't been. So they're left. The left runs everything into the ground. But we got another Church at Planned Parenthood that's in the works, that's planning on starting this spring over on the other side of the mountains, and I think that one's going to be a big one as well. So these things, people love this idea, and they're starting to spring up everywhere. So I'm praying that this happens all over the nation. That's my goal.
That is awesome. Then I would be remiss if I didn't ask you. So I got into this debate. I know it's crazy. I'm not controversial at all. With a gentleman who said that life begins when the breath is breathed in, and they reverted me back to Genesis with the whole story of Adam. Where does your biblical stance from where life begins? Where do you find that? What sets that up for you?
Well, there's a number of different verses and a number of different examples. You know, the one that I think we both know very well is God knew us in the womb, and he knitted us together in our mother's womb. So we are a creation of God, and he also made us in his own image. And then we have many examples of babies in the womb and interactions. Remember the story with Jesus in the womb of Mary, and Mary walks into a room with Elizabeth, who is pregnant with John the Baptist.
Right.
And your Bible and my Bible says that John the Baptist in the womb, like fetus John, right, leapt for joy because Jesus entered the room. So here you have a couple of unborn babies having like a charismatic worship service in the wombs of their mother. And so listen, if John the Baptist is leaping for joy, what do you have there? You have somebody that's leaping, number one, and joy. Joy is a fruit of the Spirit. Joy is an emotion that's put there by the Lord into real human beings. So John is obviously already a human being. So that's one of a number of different examples in Scripture where the unborn are unborn children are human beings.
Right. No, that's awesome. And I'm just glad to make that distinction on where this stuff is, because not only is it biblical, but we're finding that more and more as more information comes out, it's more scientifically proven. The scans are getting more and more detailed. We're finding out new things all the time that just further prove this point that, you know, a fetus in the womb is a living being it just has just as much rights as you or I do.
Right. And what a foolish argument. Adam wasn't even born. There's no way to. I mean, God, he wasn't in the womb.
Exactly. He was formed of the dust of the ground. I mean, it's a completely separate circumstance. That's what they end up doing. They take the one exception to things and then they completely blow it out of proportion to try to fit their narrative when it is a one exception that is explicitly supplied as an exception.
Yeah.
So
It's totally distinct. And the left is not looking for the truth. They're looking to justify their sin. And that's the difference. If you care about truth, you're going to find it. If you seek the Lord, you find him. If you don't seek him, you won't. And so,
Well, awesome. A few closing remarks. For those of you that are around Oklahoma City, February 11th, be there. And that's at the state capitol.
State capitol. Yeah. Please be there early.
So get off your duff and get over there and do something with your life. Because we all know you'll probably just sit around and watch TV if you aren't doing something productive.
You're watching the Schumann Show.
Yeah, there you go. So, is there a place where someone you can go to learn more about your organization? You're wearing a hat, so I gotta assume you guys have merch. So, where somewhere in can get a hold of all that?
Yeah, we got people love our merch. I mean, we do good merch. We really do. We got
I do
hats.
see it around here as even, so in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, man, we've got hoodies, we've got beanies, we've got black t-shirts, white t-shirts, pink for the girls, and so we've got lots of great merch. They can find out about us at thechurchapplanedparenthood.com. thechurchapplanedparenthood.com. Also,
check it out below.
Yeah, awesome. And they can follow me. That's probably the best thing to do. Follow me at Pastor Ken Peters TCAPP, like my hat right there. They can follow me on Facebook, Pastor Ken Peters TCAPP. We also have the Church at Planned Parenthood Spokane Facebook page. So if you get on Facebook and just type in the Church at Planned Parenthood, a bunch of different Church at Planned Parenthoods will pop up from many different cities. Okay. I lead the one in Spokane.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I believe that's all I have for you today. I really appreciate you coming on, taking time out of your hectic schedule to come out here and be able to converse with me and what it is you're doing out there. So I just have one final question in regards to the Facebook comment that was put on that you guys ended up kicked off Facebook for. And I believe it was the LGBTQ supporting Iran is like chickens supporting KFC. And they banned him over that, when in fact, it is absolutely true. Why do you think, I mean, I guess it is leftists, but why do you think their motive was for completely shutting you down over that?
The nation right now is hyper LGBTQ sensitive.
Right.
And so you can get away with some stuff on Facebook, but they're not going to let you get away with that. That's like their big agenda. And so they're watching my every post about the LGBTQ. And so what they said to me, they sent me this little thing. They said, "You're making them less than human. You're making them less than human." Like I was calling them chickens. I wasn't calling them chickens. I was making an analogy that Muslims kill LGBTQ people, just like Kentucky Fried Chicken kills chickens. So I wasn't comparing them to animals. I was making an analogy that they're supporting a country that would kill them if they lived there.
Yeah. And this, I mean, it seems almost like a blessing in disguise, because it seems like you just kind of blew up after this all happened. So, I know it's crazy how God can use something that is meant to be a detriment to us here in this world and turn around to ultimately give him glory in the end. Amen. So it is, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to have you on again sometime and do this all over again.
Hey, brother, you snap your fingers, I'll jump. It's an honor to be on your program.
Absolutely. Well, take care, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. Again, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, feel free to hit a like button or subscribe or anything like that. If you're not plugged in, just remember that all these episodes get uploaded about a week before they get put out into the public. So you'll have to wait if you're not plugged in. Other than that, follow me on Straight White Shoe and have a great week. Thanks.